Hello, everybody, and welcome to Blue Jays Today. We're your boys. We always got something to say about the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm your host, Adam Peddle.
And I'm your host, Nicholas Playlog. Recently, everybody, Twitter has been talking about the next Toronto Blue Jays target, Alex Bregman. They gotta fill that third base spot with somebody. If it ain't gonna be Matt Chapman, if it ain't gonna be the rookies, Alex Bregman, that's a pretty good shout. We're gonna talk about the reality of that. Is it something that the Toronto Blue Jays could do? How would they get it to happen? And more. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Please make sure to like and subscribe. First things first, where is this coming from? Because it really did feel like kind of out of left field. You know, you don't often hear the Houston Astros in conversations about giving up good players, you know?
Yeah. I mean, well, you had Jim Duquette. I don't even know if I'm saying Duquette. I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. He's a former GM, but now he's on MLB Network's radio. And he was talking about the possibility of Alex Bregman getting traded this offseason because he's got 1 year left on his deal. And if they looked at it, if he's kind of comparing it to a similar situation with Carlos Correa, where he wasn't going to get the offer from the Houston Astros that he wanted, and so he ended up walking. So he's talking about a possibility of potentially trading the two-time All-Star third baseman away this offseason. You go check it out, MLB Network Radio on Sirius XM. You got the whole clip here. We're not going to play it all. It's a minute 53, so you can go hear Jim's thoughts. And this kind of sparked a conversation amongst MLB, fans and analysts, and especially the ones in the Toronto Blue Jay region, because you have Jay's Journal coming out and kind of taking what Jim's saying and saying, is this a possibility where the Blue Jays go out and maybe acquire someone like Alex Bregman? You look at the free agent market. It's not that good, full of free agents. You got Bregman and then Candelario, and that's basically it.
Sorry, Chapman and Candelario.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, Chapman, Candelario, and that's basically it. On the trade market, you had Eugenio Suarez. He's gone now. So the only other guy that is now emerging is Alex Bregman. What do you make of this? Alex Bregman being on the market. What is it a possibility for the Blue Jays? What are your first kind of thoughts?
First things first, man. I just find that the way that the Houston Astros approach baseball to be really weird, and maybe it's just a luxury of just having always an incredible farm system. But the fact that, Garrett Cole doesn't get re-signed, Carlos Correa doesn't get re-signed, George Springer doesn't get re-signed. Now there's conversations going on here where it's like Alex Bregman doesn't get re-signed. They just play a different brand of baseball over there. The GMs clearly know something that nobody else does.
Right.
And I guess maybe it is just because they always have these incredible prospects coming up. So already there was just a little bit of alarm bells, red flags going on to why would they not want to re-sign them. But I guess, we can chalk it up to this is just something that they do over there on Houston.
Yeah, when they actually signed Bregman back to a smaller, shorter deal. If you look over at his contract here, I believe it was a 5-year deal. Someone please correct me. Yeah, 5 years, $100 million. They were just, okay, let's lock this guy down a little bit beyond his rookie deal.
Yeah.
Just for a little bit more.
And that was prior to his arbitration, right at the beginning of it when they locked that in.
Exactly. So they play a little bit of Atlanta ball right there. We're locking him down. We know this guy is good. We're going to pay him his money and we're going to be happy with it. But what they don't do is they don't really sign these big lucrative contracts to anybody. Right? And they kind of spread it out. They're kind of very smart with their finances. And granted, it's worked for them so far.
Yeah.
You had Jeremy Pena come up and replace Carlos Correa like it was nothing.
Sure, yeah.
You had Kyle Tucker come replace George Springer like it was nothing.
And you had Valdez and you had who's the other guy over there?
You have
Javier, right?
Javier.
I mean, multiple other good
Lance
pitchers
McCullers,
for real, right? Come up and kind of replace Garrett Cole. So just shout out to the Houston Astros. Clearly they're doing something that just other teams are not. Now to the Toronto Blue Jays. Is this something that I could see them being interested in? Absolutely, man. I mean, Alex Bregman has been good for a long period of time. He's got the experience. He's got the experience for somebody who has been in the league for 20 plus years, but he's still only 30. And that's because he has been on a World Series winning squad twice now.
Yeah, twice.
So it's like he's been to the dance so many more times than a lot of our Toronto Blue Jays has. He also, I imagine, has a pretty good rapport with George Springer, right? You could get those guys back on, and you could even have George Springer say, hey, man, like, Toronto Blue Jays is pretty good over here in Toronto. You know, I know Canada's got a bad rap, but it ain't so bad, you know? Come up north, it's pretty good, you know? So I do think that the Toronto Blue Jays could absolutely be interested in that, and we have been in those conversations already of potentially trading some big pieces. They want to do something big. This would be it.
Yeah, and be big. And here's the thing. Here's the beautiful thing about the Toronto Blue Jays.
Time for a quick shout out to Betway. Betway is the best place to make all of your sports bets on all of your favorite teams. Betway is also in collaboration with iGaming Ontario. Must be 19 years older to participate. And guys, please bet responsibly. Now, back to the content.
We make a lot of money as Rogers, and we can afford to pay a lot of players. Alex Bregman's on the book for about $30 million coming into 2024. A lot of teams, that's kind of like a little bit of a red flag.
Right.
You don't really want to pay $30 million for a guy if you're not in a win now window. We are in a win now window. We have a clear need at third base. The one thing that we have to note before even engaging in any trade talks, this whole conversation gets derailed if we don't look into this. Apparently, he's got 10 teams on a no trade clause. So we have to actually see that. We don't know. It's not released to the public unless someone does release it to the public on what those teams are. And he can also change it as he goes. Maybe George Springer changes that. So if we are on that, it's all over.
Wow,
but if we're not, if he is okay with getting traded to the Blue Jays, then absolutely, this is an absolute reality that we can go out and do. And it's going to be a little bit cheaper because it's a 1 year of $30 million. You're not going to give up the big prospects like you would for Juan Soto.
Yeah.
You know, you could give up maybe one prospect, and I'm okay with that.
You know, and I like this as well because I don't think that Alex Bregman is a must re-sign kind of candidate. No. Juan Soto, if you give up all the prospect capital to get him, and considering he is potentially a generational player, you want to keep that guy, right? Yeah. So there's almost like the whole caveat as to, okay, we're going to give up all this stuff. Now the work isn't fully done because we need to get him back on a contract because he is just that good. Alex Bregman, looking at the numbers, is a phenomenal baseball player. I mean, his career's got an 861 OPS, very good. Tons of WAR there. Like I said, lots and lots of experience. But for the Toronto Blue Jays, you still have a lot of nice prospects down there that could potentially play the third base bag. And something that we've been talking about is we want to give those kids the opportunity. We just don't necessarily think that walking in with rookies at the third base bag is the right way to go about it. So you bring on Alex Bregman for 1 year, you bring up those kids to play maybe a bit of a utility role, step in every now and then if you want to get this guy off of his feet, you see what they have, and then maybe you could feel a lot more comfortable letting him walk to free agency next year and potentially starting the season with an Aurelvis Martinez now that he has half a season of Major League Baseball under his belt.
Absolutely agree. And, you know, as a fan, you might wonder, okay, what do they want in return? Maybe they want a Aurelvis Martinez or a Barger in return who could play some third base. Well, I know that the whole problem with them last year wasn't their offense. It was actually their pitching was kind of shaky, up and down, unreliable, but there's still a lot of good guys there. I mean, McCullers Jr. was basically gone for most of the year. So maybe they'd want a pitcher in return, right? Yeah. You can probably make that work in that case. And I absolutely love what you're saying there. That's a perfect way to just lead those guys into their major league careers.
Yeah, 1,000%. And comparing this guy to Matt Chapman too. I mean, defensively, Matt Chapman, we'll give it to him. He's there. He is better, you know, so like you're going to have that. But I think that the Toronto Blue Jays, you're starting at such a strong defensive place that you can sacrifice a little bit of that and replace it with somebody who's going to drive in runs. He's going to make it happen, you know. He is just such a productive guy. I mean, he scored over 100 times last year. Right? Granted, that's on the Houston Astros offense, but Toronto Blue Jays, they're capable of scoring people as well. And having this guy be the dude who comes up when there's runners in scoring position, I feel so much more comfortable with that than with Matt Chapman. Alternatively, you could put this guy at the top of the lineup, and then you could have Guerrero and Bichette and several others driving him in instead of being Matt Chapman the one to drive them in, you know?
And I love him being in the top of the lineup. I mean, you look over here at his chase, his whiff, his K percentage, and his walk percentage. Alex Bregman is known to being quite the plate approach guy. He's very patient, he's very selective, and when he gets the ball, hits it hard. Granted, the numbers slugging wise have kind of dropped off in the years. So I'm not really getting him to go and drive in a bunch of runs like maybe I wanted Matt Chapman, but maybe we can rely on Guerrero for a bounce back. Bo Bichette always drives in runs. This guy's phenomenal. Put him in the 2 spot between George and Vlad. Maybe Bo goes down to the 4 hole. You can have him drive in runs. I think that would make a lot more sense.
How many home runs did Matt Chapman get last year?
He had 25.
This is Bregman. How many did Chapman get?
Chapman got 17.
So I mean, that's the thing. Like, you're talking about slugging. It's, and I know that Matt Chapman's always considered this big time slugger.
Yeah.
It's not like he's necessarily getting it done either, and especially not last year. Bregman, I mean, 25 home runs. Absolutely nothing to scoff at all, right?
Sure.
If you could get that done, like, we are all freaking over it. So I think that Alex Bregman is an absolute buy candidate, as long as you're not giving up Ricky Tiedemann, or I think Aurelvis Martinez too would be on the no trade list for me. Yeah. But if you're giving up one of the 5th or 6th or 7th ranked prospect in your system, maybe you package 2 of them off. That's an appealing deal for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would even go to say Zuleta. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, his placement on the team, he's kind of he's supposed to be MLB ready next year, according to the MLB.com. But the big report on him is like, yeah, he's just missing that command right now, and he's going to take a little bit longer. You look at the rotation, like they're wondering if he's a rotation guy. Like, he doesn't have no real fit right there in the rotation. They got the bullpen. Maybe he can be a long bullpen guy. Well, our bullpen's really good right now. I think it's okay to send him off, have someone else kind of come up. He's a great prospect, but that would be a perfect trade that maybe they can go and experiment with him and figure that out.
Completely agree. Now, the one thing about this is this is going to be a slow burn, everybody. You're probably going to have to wait and see for a lot of the free agents to first leave. But if Toronto Blue Jays find themselves in a position where Matt Chapman's not back on the team, Candelario is not on the team, some of their other options just are not working out, this is absolutely a tree that they should be barking up.
Absolutely. Guys, let us know in the comments down below, what do you think about Alex Bregman? What would you offer to the Houston Astros to get him if you wanted them anyways?
Please make sure to like and subscribe. Also, $3 a month, become a Patreon member. Shout out and thank you to every single one of our current Patreon members and our YouTube members too. All of you guys are freaking amazing.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. And go Jays, go!